Hello, everyone. Welcome. Good to see you all. We have some folks trickling in, like Grace, some folks who are still connecting to audio. Just give it one more second. I see a Taylor Simpson whose iPhone is still working to connect to audio. Welcome, Taylor. All right, I think we're all connected.
Thank you.
I will just see, we get started right here. All right, welcome everyone to the fourth week of the Make It Until You Make It challenge. This week we are kicking off the Yahoo challenge, also known as the Yahoo Finance Challenge. We didn't want to scare anyone with the term finance snuck in there, but it's going to be a super fun week of exposure to finance topics from non-finance experts. We do not claim to be the finance experts, but we're going to impart a few things that might make you smart enough to be dangerous and give you a crash course without having to take a finance class. And some things, insights that might help you be really super prepared to enter into an industry sector or market sector and be a little bit savvy about what some of the issues are going on overall in the public markets. Before we get started, I'm going to share my screen and show you just a few things that get everyone oriented about what we're doing here. So bear with me. Okay. Thumbs up if you can see my screen. All right, terrific. Okay, so welcome again to the Make It Till You Make It challenge. Above all, we are a community that is helping one another enter into some high growth industry sectors, and particularly for students who may be first generation or minority status. We may not have a huge industry network, a network of people in the tech field or in our desired field. So drop your LinkedIn handle into the chat. Here's my LinkedIn. We share with you a document of everybody's LinkedIn handles, not only students, but also speakers. And we are going to just continue to expand one another's networks so that we can help reach someone 2 or 3 degrees of separation who could be game changing for our career goals. We do have a lot of internships and job opportunities in our extended community. We have mentors at Roblox, a fast-growing gaming company who are looking for sound engineers as interns. As you know, Verizon is an incredible partner. They have a number of jobs and internships, and Verizon mentors come to Friday our mentorship sessions. So this is a great way to find out more and network your way to your dream job. Universal Audio is a close company in our network who've asked us to keep an eye out for interns for them. Bose, SiriusXM, we did a lot of work with them. They're fast growing. ByteDance, owner of TikTok, lots of job opportunities here. Take-Two Interactive, the gaming sector is just exploding for them. They were reporting the pandemic has been a really big boon from the fact that people have games to turn to and as a social activity. So this 10-week series, as many of you know, is designed to enhance your emotional intelligence. We want you to understand your emotional quotient, identify your strengths, what you're really good at, identify your weaknesses, what you still need to work on, and be able to articulate that to employers. Employers find emotional intelligence and candidates who understand their strengths and weaknesses to be an incredibly valuable thing. And so we help you understand your own strengths and weaknesses, to exercise your design mindset. Each week there's a challenge. We are not asking for perfection. We want you to not fear failure. Just bring your prototypes for feedback, and we help you get better and better with each week. You receive mentorship from members in industry on Friday when you bring your prototypes for their feedback, and we help you land your dream job. As I mentioned, we are in week 4, the Yahoo Challenge. And we're going to start by just asking a quick warm-up question. Who here has invested in stocks, and what successes have you had so far? I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I would like to add into this, let's see, stop share. I'm going to add into the chat window that I've recently had a chance to invest in some stocks, and I'm going to tell you the story of Zoom. All right, so and if you all have had any experience with it at all, just go ahead and like drop something into the chat window. I see Chris has just entered the waiting room. Let's admit him. Okay, so let me tell you the story about Zoom. I've worked remotely for Stanford and real industry for many, many years. And so this is my natural habitat. I work with students all over the globe using Zoom, with faculty from different institutions. And when the pandemic happened, I had used BlueJeans for a long time. No offense, Verizon. I know BlueJeans is an amazing tool, but Stanford changed their license to Zoom last year, and I came kicking and screaming. And so I just happened to be on Zoom and happened to notice some differences in the platform. I appreciated Zoom after all that. And so when we were all thrust into a pandemic, Zoom was at about $115 a share, and I thought, I think it's gonna go up. And I bought some Zoom at 115, and its high last year was 515, and I sold it when it came down a little bit to 400. Now it's about 300 and something. So I sold it at a high. I'm going to admit Nathan, who's joining us. So yeah, I was able to enjoy Zoom's ascent, and I kind of saw the pandemic as turning a corner, and I didn't see Zoom adding tools fast enough that were going to change the number of subscribers that it had. And so I decided to exit to do other things. So Simeon mentioned Spotify. Simeon, do you have a quick story you can share about Spotify?
Yeah, so similar to what Mara said, I'm a big fan of Spotify. I was listening to them for the past like 4 or 5 years. And I remember reading up an article in 2016 or 2017 about their interest in video integration when it comes to their podcast and other music songs that they have on their platform. And I thought that would be like a great idea because podcasts that are on YouTube, you can see they're sort of visual, but on Spotify at the time, you weren't able to sort of see video. But they released a video proportion of their product in December of last year, 2020, they acquired so many different podcasts from like Joe Rogan to many others. And I knew at that time that was going to be like a high point for them. So I was able to successfully like get out of it at the time that it reached its high. And it's continuing to go that way. I think the CEO said that, their stock price, they want to go up to, the 600s in, 2 years or something like that. But pay attention to articles like that and seeing sort of how, certain companies move, especially companies that you are familiar with or that you consume, was a good way for me to figure out, okay, this might actually work for me.
Great, thank you for sharing. Verizon is one I've been watching lately, especially with Warren Buffett having announced a couple of weeks ago that he secretly purchased up a bunch of Verizon stock. And if you figure if Warren Buffett has some, bird's eye view of what's going on in the industry, then certainly it must be a really good pick. And I'll tell you a little bit more later about some different stock portfolios that I've kept track of over the last few decades. But for now, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Matt Taylor, who I believe has a guest who he will introduce to us. Matt.
Thank you, Mara. Yes, we are joined by a financial expert today. And so helping us to make sense of all the different trends that we see and how that relates to stocks and what it actually even means to invest into a company and own a share. Overall, we're very lucky to have Kristin Myers join us today. So Kristin is an award-winning journalist, producer, communications professional, cool people, checks a lot of boxes. Kristin has worked in communications for a while since finishing grad school, and has worked on things ranging from climate change to education to the growing global refugee crisis. And now she's a reporter with Yahoo Finance. So she writes on the economy. You can see her on air. Check out her show. Feel free to plug your show, Kristin. She breaks it down, and she's very intentional with who she has on and all the perspectives that she incorporates. And she was very happy to join us, and we're lucky to have her. So with that, Kristin, I'll pass it to you, and thanks again for being here.
Hi, everyone. So I don't want to talk too long because I love just like answering like loads of questions. But as Matt was saying, I don't know if I'd brand, well, first of all, I don't know if I'd brand myself a finance expert. I'm just going to throw that out the gate. And I actually think that's a really good thing, because I think that when we think about finance, when we think about the markets, we think of it as this like big mythical thing that is really hard to understand. It's really hard to grasp. And as a result, we don't see enough people getting involved in the market. We don't see enough women getting involved in the market. We don't see enough Black folks or people of color getting involved in investing. So I think that one of the like things that I love to do is really try to take out the fear that's like attached around investing and around the markets in general. But I am an anchor at Yahoo Finance. I'm on air every day from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern, Monday to Friday. So you can feel free to check my show out. But Yahoo Finance is a really great free resource. So you can watch us between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. We call that bell to bell coverage, Monday through Friday. So you can literally just go to yahoofinance.com on your TV, on your phone, on your computer, whatever, and we'll be there talking to you about whatever's happening in the markets that day and that week and everything else. So it's a really nice way to kind of just start watching and get a pretty free education on what's happening when it comes to the markets. My background, which I think is kind of important and also very helpful, because again, I think we always think that people in finance have like supremely advanced degrees. You start listening to CNBC, even Yahoo Finance. I won't lie. You'll hear us toss casual phrases around and it sounds like a completely different language. And when it comes to your money, who wants to take your hard-earned money and put it in something that you have no idea or clue about? Like I wouldn't, and I didn't for a very, very long time for that reason. But I started out not doing, business news. I went to the University of Pennsylvania. I was not in Wharton at all. I had no interest in business. I started out as a PPE major, that's philosophy, politics, and economics. And I didn't even finish PPE. I literally got my diploma in something else because I hated the economics portion of it. Honestly, I did like 1 year of econ and I was like, this is so boring. There was a lot more like other stuff that I thought was involved that I didn't really feel like dealing with. And then I went to graduate school in Europe and I studied journalism there, international journalism. And so that's been my first like passion and love, international news. And then when I stayed in Europe, I did get my first job at Bloomberg. And that was, I know this is called make it until you make it. I was very big on fake it until you make it at first. I had no idea truly what I was doing. So that's the first piece of advice. That's not even financial. Honestly, take jobs that scare you, where you feel like you're going to have to learn a lot on the job. If you know everything that you're going to need to know in that role, then chances are you're already beyond that role. You need to go for the job where you don't know everything. You are going to be challenged. You're going to be forced to grow. So I started out in journalism, working for Bloomberg News, reporting on oil and gas, what was going on with the housing markets and the krona, that's the Norwegian currency. And like I said, I had no idea what I was doing at first. And then in my long journalism career, I think of it as long, it's not really that long. I'm not that old, but in my journalism career, after I left Norway, I came back to the US, worked at Al Jazeera America. So then I was back to international news again. Then I worked at a nonprofit doing communications, but essentially they sent me around the world to report on humanitarian crises. And then I ended up back in business news at Yahoo Finance. And mainly what I do is a lot of intersection between politics and policy and how that impacts whatever's happening in your wallets. And then I focus a lot on issues pertaining to immigrants, because I'm a child of immigrants, Black folks because I'm Black, women because I'm a woman, and millennials because I'm a millennial. So I like to report on stories that essentially pertain to me and all of my friends and a lot of the communities that I'm in. And as a part of that, I've had to get a very fast, I already knew a bit about finance, obviously, in the markets. But I can honestly tell you that the amount of knowledge that I've gained just over the last 2.5 years since I've been at Yahoo Finance has been incredible, which just goes to show that truly, honestly, you do not need to go out and get a master's in investment banking or in finance or an advanced degree in economics for you to understand what's happening in the markets, for you to understand about stocks or bonds or anything like that. You don't need that, honestly. And the market is, yes, it is complex. It can get very technical. There can be a lot of math involved, but you don't need to dive into the depths of those complexities in order for you to invest. I think Humera put it very well when she said that she invested in Zoom at the start of the pandemic or somewhere in the pandemic because she figured that, she was using Zoom a lot and she figured a lot of other people would be using Zoom a lot, and therefore she invested. That is actually a brilliant investment strategy. I get asked this question a lot. How do I know what to invest in? Where do I begin? And I always say, invest in what you know, invest in what interests you, because the fact of the matter is the US economy is 70% built on the consumer, the US consumer. So that's literally every one of us in this call. Doesn't matter how old you are. If you ever have money in your pocket and you go out and spend it at a store or on a good or a service, you are a consumer. Most of the American economy is built upon the consumer. The majority of the US economy is built upon that, which means that you already have the tools and the insight for what's happening in the economy, what companies are doing well, what companies are not doing well. And that's pretty much the very basic thing that you need to know in order to invest in the market. Will this stock go up or will this stock go down? And whether a stock goes up or down hinges on a lot of factors, but at its very core, it hinges upon, is this company doing well? And do I think it will continue to do well? Or is this company not doing well and will it continue to do badly, poorly over time? And that's pretty much it. And once you feel as if you have the answer to that question, then the rest honestly becomes easy. And then you can start asking, more probative, more complex questions about a stock, about a company, or any other type of investment that you essentially want to make. So that's my very brief overview. I'm happy to answer as many questions as we could possibly fit, either around markets or around my background or anything that you guys think would be helpful. But I wanted to give just a very brief primer on everything that I've been doing.
Kristin, thank you so much. That was very inspiring. And thank you for helping us feel a sense of confidence that any one of us can do this. It really is that accessible. Thank you. All right, questions for Kristin.
Particularly, I just want to mention, if you are a woman, women do not invest in the markets traditionally at all. Only about a quarter of women invest. That's compared to about 75% of men. So that's a huge gap here. But fun fact, ladies, when we do invest, we outperform men every single time. Our accounts always do better.
And I think there's, I think I saw some research somewhere that says that women are better at saving. And so I pair that with, your ability to connect dots and have some intuition about companies. I imagine that every female and male investor on this call can do really well with their portfolio. I personally think that young people have great potential because they are able to spot some trends that older folks may not yet realize. For instance,
don't get me started, because if I was younger, I would have invested in Crocs.
Right.
And Well, I don't purchase Crocs. I don't wear Crocs. I always thought them when they came out, I was a little bit younger than I am now. And we lambasted the company for coming out with this stupid rubber shoe. I mean, who wanted to buy a Crocs? No one. It was like the nurse's shoe. It was the ugliest thing ever. Well, guess who's having the last laugh now? It's not me, because Crocs is doing incredibly well. Post Malone's like Crocs like sold out within seconds. I see some shaking heads. Exactly. Well, if I was a couple years younger, I probably would have known that, and I would have invested in Crocs, because that stock, honestly, I think it doubled actually. I don't even want to look at it because it makes me sick.
It
But
was
yes,
frightening. It
young
was
people absolutely, as you're mentioning, have their finger on the pulse. And also, as I mentioned, yeah, Crocs, almost $85 a share. It definitely wasn't that when I was considered purchasing it. I think it was at like $18.
And
That's insane.
let's take Roblox, for example. So if anyone has a younger brother or sister or is spotting what's going on, perhaps some of you are actually engaged. Roblox is now serving 150 million young consumers between the age of 7 and 12. It promises to become the Facebook. Little Nas performed on Roblox at the end of last year. You've got something that is that a stock that didn't go IPO last week in initial public offering, but rather became publicly traded and is now trading at $70 an hour. Sorry, $70 a share. I see great potential in Roblox. And I think that if you're a young person with any disposable income, you might say, "Oh yeah, that is, worth taking a look at." But let's go back to you all, students. What questions do you have? And we're going to give you some more information and ways, tools to use to look at stocks, look at their history, assemble a portfolio. We're going to do that in just a short while. But what questions do you have for Kristin at this juncture?
I have a question.
Yes, Taylor.
Okay, hi Kristin. My name's Taylor Simpson. I'm actually a graduating senior from Spelman College, and my major is international studies. So I haven't really been focused on economics and finance, but like you've mentioned, with everything going on in the world and like just the trajectory that cryptocurrency and being in digital marketing holds, I just decided to get into it. So I'm completely new to finance. I'm learning everything. I actually secured myself an internship and I'm working with all men, learning finance at the same time. So I totally relate to when you mentioned you guys are throwing around kind of general terms, but it sounds like a foreign language because that's the position I'm in right now. So I was just wondering, in your experience, if you had any suggestions or tips on how to be kind of a trailblazing woman in this industry, but more so in like the little steps. So when you're just starting out and beginning, because obviously I can't be this amazing trader right off the bat, but I'd love to start make the steps to become that. So I just love to hear your opinion on that. And thank you so much for talking to us today.
Of course. Taylor, that's a great question. One, don't think that you can't be an amazing trader right off the bat. So that's like first and foremost. Honestly, like I think it was Humera who was talking about Warren Buffett. We call him the Oracle of Omaha. When you actually like listen to like his talks and when he addresses shareholders, nothing is really that like, not that he's not brilliant. He is, obviously, he's one of the world's richest men, and he didn't get that way by just being average. But when you listen to him and he gives his insights, none of it is really you're not, a regular person can't understand it. Everyone can, because he really does talk to, and he breaks it down in ways that you really honestly realize that when it comes to a lot of these investments, a lot of this is information that a lot of other people have, and also can fully understand. So don't cut yourself and knock yourself short already out the gate. You can absolutely be an amazing trader right off the bat. To start off, I think it's just down to a little bit of like research and education, truly. whenever anyone started learning, let's just call it another language, right? When you started learning Spanish or French or Mandarin or any other language in school, in high school, in college, you started small with the basic words, you know, hello, goodbye, thank you, where is, how much is, right? And then before you know it, you are putting together complete sentences. It's literally the same way when it comes to finance. So just start reading business news. I honestly, like, it is incredible how much you are going to start picking up and how much you are going to start learning once you start watching CNBC or once you start watching Yahoo Finance. Once you go onto sites like investopedia.com and you start researching, you know, basic terms. What does it mean if a market is bullish? What does it mean if a market is bearish? What does it mean if the Fed is dovish or hawkish, right? When it comes to interest rates, or what does it mean when I say intraday, or, you know, a lot of these random, you know, phrases that we like to put out there. Once you start realizing what those mean, what does it mean when the market is volatile? What is a pullback? What is a correction? Pullback and correction are not the same thing. You then start to realize that what you're hearing is actually far more easy to understand than you originally thought. So I would 100% advocate for just spending. So just one, start watching business news. Like, just start watching CNBC when you're getting ready, or watch Yahoo Finance when you're getting ready for school or work or wherever you're going to go. And if you hear a phrase you don't understand, write it down and then look it up. And then you do that all the time. I mean, it sounds like it's a lot more daunting than it actually is. But truly, if you start doing that very, very, and I mean very quickly, you will start catching up to speed. And you'll start recognizing that the questions that you might have about a particular company are going to be the questions that the anchors ask. And then you really need to start giving yourself like a little bit more of credit, because you're going to start to realize that you do have a lot of the tools that you already need to get started. And then in order to be trailblazing, honestly, it's sad to say this, but your mere presence is already trailblazing. We don't have a lot of women that are in this field at all. So just make sure that you show up all the time. Never be afraid to participate. Never be afraid to make your face, to make sure that they see your face and that they hear your voice, and encourage other women, other Black women to participate with you, and to be in these places and these spaces. I think that's first and foremost. Representation totally matters. And I think that the more that we see women in these spaces and we start listening to women in these spaces, then we can start really blazing a path in this space.
I want to plus one something you're saying, just real brief, to say all the tools exist for young people and people who don't have a lot of wealth to get started with investment. It used to be that you'd have to work through a broker, and they probably would want a minimum amount of money for you to get started. And then the field started becoming more disrupted with things like E-Trade. And now with a tool as easy to use as Robinhood, you could get started with as little as $20. So you don't have to have thousands and thousands of dollars to get started, but it's also a really good way to just like take a little bit that you don't need. You don't see it, you just put it aside, and you'll have more and more to play with. Additional questions, and actually, Kristin, there's a number.
I see a bunch in the chat. I was going to just go down. I was actually just going to go down the list, if you don't mind doing that.
Please.
So I saw, Nathan, you asked what you have advice for beginning your journey in investments. You have a Fidelity account. You bought a few shares over quarantine. You're still new to the whole thing. Okay, so one, this is perfect. So I do want to say this. Everyone on this call, I imagine, is in college or quite young, which is actually incredible for you to be starting your investment journey now. The reason for that is twofold. One, compound interest is a thing, which means, for anyone that doesn't know what compound interest is, it means that, let's say you put $100 in and this year you make 10% on that investment. That means you have $110 to start investing with next year, and it grows and it grows and it grows. And the amount that you gain in just 5 years, there was a chart that I saw a couple of years ago when it came to retirement accounts. The difference in money that you'll have just because of compound interest when you retire, between if you start at 25 and if you start at 30, is a couple $100,000. So it's like, start investing as soon as you possibly can. I wish someone told me to invest when I was 20 or 22 or 21, honestly. So that's first and foremost. Two is the fact that, and not to assume anyone's financial situations or economic situations here, but in general, if we're going to just use my basic experience, while all of you are fairly broke, you also don't have as many bills as some of us, the rest of us. I know some faces, I know not everyone's financial situation is the same, but when you are younger, you tend to also not have as all of the other responsibilities that a 40, 50-year-old might, right? Where they're caring for a child and they have to pay for daycare and school, and also a parent and all of this other stuff that really drags and weighs on your accounts. So you have very little, but you don't have as many financial responsibilities, which tends to mean that younger folks have sometimes more discretionary income, even if that discretionary income is very, very little. I had a lot of discretionary, a lot. I just mean that I had money and I blew it all the time on things that I did not need at all, because I didn't have to pay. I didn't have, my student loan bill was paying for my rent. I had a rent that I had to pay for, but I didn't have to totally rely on like my job the way I do now. Now I'm like mortgage payment, homeowners insurance, school taxes. That's a thing that I have to like consider now and pay for. That was not something that I had to worry about in college. And as a result, you might have a lot more money. So like I said, take the money that you have. I would first and foremost say, make yourself a budget. Do not ever invest money that you need to have. That's first and foremost. If you need that money to pay off to pay a student loan bill, a credit card bill, your rent, your, car note, that's not money you invest at all, at all, at all, at all. The money that you invest is the money that you have from not buying as much Starbucks or going to the bar as often or eating out as much. And good news, you're in quarantine, so you can't do any of that anyway. We're all in a pandemic. We can't go out as much as we used to. So hopefully you have a little bit more of those funds left over. That's the money that you want to invest. And my biggest piece of advice is to, as a part of your budget, pay yourself first. So the first thing I do when I get my paycheck, I have money that goes straight into my savings account. And then I have money that goes straight into my 401k, money that goes straight into my Roth IRA. I do have both. I know there's a retirement question coming up. Money that goes to my 401k, my Roth IRA, and then my regular investment account. That's what I do first. And I've already built it into my budget that the money that I have left over is also enough to cover all of my expenses. So that's what I do first, because what you don't want to do is invest willy-nilly. You don't want to invest in January, then forget about it until June. And then, back in September, you want to pop in again. Make it a regular thing, make it a habit. I treat it personally as almost a bill. And unlike my other bills, I can decide how much I'm going to pay for it. So I would definitely recommend doing that. And then when it comes to what you're going to pick, again, invest in what you know, invest in index funds that tracks the three major indices. Also invest in ETFs. That's what we call passive investing. It means you don't have to stock pick, every single month or every couple of weeks. And that truly is one, it takes your mind off of it. And also reduces the amount of risk that you're going to be exposed to. And it's just easy. It's almost like set it and forget it investing. Just throw your money in an ETF or throw your money in an index fund. Right now, markets are on a tear. Rally took a brief pause today, but as long as the markets go up, and they tend to go up, your money continues to grow. So that's just pretty much the easiest thing. I know you also asked about retirement accounts. You're absolutely correct. Your Wells Fargo savings account receives little interest. Yeah, you're probably getting like no interest, honestly. Savings account, even the high interest savings accounts, they give you nothing pretty much. I mean, putting your money in a savings account is not how you grow money. You know, money in your savings account is money for your rainy day, your emergencies, money that you might need to put on like a down payment of a home, perhaps. That's not money that you're trying to grow. Like, let's just be very clear about that, because the amount of interest you're going to receive on that money on your savings account is negligible, really. So if you want to grow your money and you want to grow it in faster and bigger, you're going to want to start thinking about investing. Now, when it comes to your retirement accounts, remember, this is not money for you to tap into until you're old. So for most of the people here, I mean 40 years from now. Your 401k is not something you want to be tapping into because you have an emergency, if you at all can avoid it. It's not, hey, I want to buy a car in a couple of years, let's pull money out of my 401k. No, that's not what that money is for. That money is so that when you're 65, or whenever you want to retire, more power to you. If you retire at 30 or 40, and then you don't care if you take the hit on your 401k account, because you will take a huge penalty if you withdraw it early before you retire, or if you withdraw it for something that's not approved. Buying a home, by the way, is approved, so you don't get penalized, but you still would like to avoid that because, again, compound interest, you want that money to keep growing. That money is there so you guys can literally all be on a yacht when you're 65, like cruising around Italy or wherever, because that's what I'm saving my money for. I love traveling now. I want to travel again when I'm older and I don't have a job that I have to go to every day. That's what my money is being put to the side for. So that's what you want to do it for, or whatever you want to do in your retirement. Maybe you just want to sleep all day. Doesn't matter. Whatever you want to do in your retirement, that's what that money is being put to the side for. So there's a lot of different retirement accounts. You know, there's Fidelity. That's the one I use. Charles Schwab, I believe, also has a retirement account. You can kind of investigate which one works for you. Also remember, 401k is a type of retirement account. And I'll kind of now pivot on to Tara's question. The difference between a Roth IRA and a 401k. Your 401k takes money out pre-tax, so it essentially reduces your tax liability. So it means that if you get paid $100,000 a year and you put $10,000 a year in your 401k, as far as the government is concerned, you only make $90,000 a year. So that means that it only taxes you on $90,000. The trade-off, however, is that if you withdraw your money early, the US government taxes you on it, and pretty heavily. Now, a Roth IRA is money that gets taken out post-tax, excuse me. So what happens is you get $100,000. The US government's like, you make 100,000, I'm taxing you on 100,000. And then if you want to put in 6,000, that's the cap right now for a Roth IRA. You can put that $6,000 in. It also means you can withdraw your money with far less penalties because you technically already paid tax on the money that goes into that account. As I mentioned earlier, I have both. A 401k, most people know because they usually get offered through your employer and you get a match. And a match, by the way, is literally free money. So do it. If your company matches you 3%, put in 3%, they'll match that 3%. That means 6% of your salary is what you have in that retirement account. So you always want to put in at minimum enough to get that full match from your employer if you can, because it's just, otherwise it's just literally free money you're leaving behind on the table. And as I said, I have both accounts because my Roth is just another investment vehicle. I get to play around with it a little bit more. And like I said, I'm like really, like when I tell you I really want to be on a boat traveling for like 40 years after our retirement, I'm very serious, and no one saves enough money for retirement. You need way, 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 way more money than you think that you need. If you think you can retire with $1 million, you'll be broke very quickly. I mean, people live a very long time. In my family alone, they live over 100. Now, if I retire at 65, that's 40 years of salary, essentially, that I need to have. And yachting is expensive. So I'm putting as much money as I can to the side so I can save as much money for that.
Smart, smart, smart. Okay, we have time for just one more question. If there is a question, or if we've made our way through, I would love to share the Yahoo portfolio tool and your challenge for the week. Kristin, do you see another question here that you have not yet addressed?
Some people asked about E-Trade versus Robinhood, etc. Okay, so I do have Robinhood, I have Fidelity, and I have E-Trade. So I have Fidelity because my Roth and my 401k are through Fidelity, and then I also just added on a regular investment account. I also have, I mentioned E-Trade, and I have Robinhood. So Robinhood I mainly got to trade cryptos. That's really it. It's not a traditional, I mean, Robinhood's not actually a wallet, but it does allow you to trade cryptocurrencies. If you wanted like an actual real wallet, I would have to go over to like something like Coinbase if I really wanted to do that. But Robinhood's really, really easy. The platform is so gamified that, I mean, I'm not going to lie, even myself, I'm like, oh, I'll put $500 on this, swipe up and trade. Problem with Robinhood. While it is very, very easy, it doesn't allow you to do as many things as a platform like E-Trade, which is why I actually have E-Trade. E-Trade is there because it lets you do things that are a little bit more complex. The other main problem I have with Robinhood, it's slow. It is very slow. Robinhood crashes a lot. And in the market, speed is kind of the name of the game. And for whatever reason, I find that Robinhood's what we call market makers, they're the people that actually execute the trades behind the scenes. I always feel as if the trade, the price that I'm getting is not as good with Robinhood as it is with other platforms. That doesn't mean don't get Robinhood. I think that for most average investors, particularly if you're just starting out, actually, I think Robinhood is great and it's fine. I think the more you start trading, the more you start investing, Robinhood is frustrating sometimes to deal with as a platform. Acorns, I have heard of. I actually had Acorns like years ago. And then I realized that Acorns, based on the amount I was investing, actually wasn't worth it. Because of the amount of money that they charge you to invest and the amount of money that you're gaining, it actually doesn't add up. So I got rid of Acorns like when I was 25. So that was about over 5 years ago.
Nice. All right, well, give it up for Kristin, everyone. Thank you so much. This was incredible advice and so covering so many different topics. As you all have additional questions, continue to add it to the chat, and we will see if we can cycle back to it. In the meantime, what I want to say is, I know we've been talking a lot about our own personal investment, our intuition about, or our gut, or our ability to see connections between what we're spending on and where the market is headed and what stocks might be valuable. But also, what public markets are doing can be a profound indicator to for you to pick what companies you wish to join and what market sectors you wish to be a part of. There's a lot you can tell about a company's fiscal health and also where it could be headed in light of what other companies are doing in adjacent fields. So what we're asking you to do this week for your challenge is to develop a portfolio. Now, Yahoo Finance has some pretty easy to use portfolio tools, and we will be doing that. I'm going to share my screen and give you an example of a portfolio. So I'm not going to date myself, but I will tell you that when I first got out of college, there was a fast moving a market opportunity that was exploding, and that was, you're going to laugh, okay, you might not. The market for desktop computing and desktop publishing and inkjet printers. And this was a time which you may not recall, but perhaps your parents and grandparents might tell you that there were companies like Xerox, and copiers were how people printed things. And generally, it was available in offices, but people at home did not have printers connected to their computers. In fact, a lot of people didn't have printers. The whole desktop revolution changed everything insofar as what we personally were able to do. And so companies like Xerox were giants that placed devices in corporations. They saw, as you can see here, they saw a peak in the 97-ish timeframe. But take a look at what happened. And this was about when I came onto the field. Okay, not gaming, hold on. Paper. All right. So Kodak was the big company that sold, film for people's personal photographs, but also sold film to magazines and printing presses so that they could publish. Now, over time, with people having computers in their homes and Hewlett Packard selling inkjet printers, in fact, even giving away the inkjet printers in order to sell you the ink, which is the very lucrative part of their business. They were making 70–80% margin on that ink, and specialty paper. And I worked for a company that was in the paper industry that sold those boxes of specialty paper that went into inkjet printers. Well, that was an industry that just really exploded in this time frame, the 1999 time frame, and then crashed. And that's for a variety of different reasons. But if you think about what's available in the office environment today, you have a lot of Canon color inkjet printers, right? So you can, Xerox as a result is no longer the giant that it was, although they sell color copiers. Hewlett Packard is no longer the giant that it was, but Canon has really held on to a lot of its market share from that color copying industry. But this whole industry, just the ups and downs, Autodesk was another key player at the time. If I were doing this analysis at the young age of 20-something coming out of college, I would have created a portfolio of these companies, having had my first job in this industry. Autodesk was primarily selling to architects and engineers who had inkjet plotters and so forth. But then came the explosion of the 3D printing market and the design world, the 3D in the design in the 3D space. And Autodesk has continued to grow and become a giant in this world. 3M was another key player that we sold to at the time. And the whole adhesives and display markets have really continued to grow. What we're asking you to do, if you are in, say, the gaming, you're interested in entering into the gaming world, then put together a portfolio that would include an EA, maker of a whole host of games that range from I believe Y2K, NBA. Correct, Simeon, what am I thinking of? EA is?
EA is like the Madden sports. Like
the Madden, exactly. It's Take-Two Interactive that has Y2K, the NBA game, and Grand Theft Auto. ATVI, who own, who bring to you Call of Duty, Roblox, as I mentioned at the top of the hour. You might also have Microsoft, makers of the Xbox console, or Sony also just released a console. Apple, if you consider the $1.99 games people are downloading on their app store as a key driver of the gaming space. So it's so easy to create your own portfolio. I'm just going to take you to the primary page where you would do this. You create an account on Yahoo Finance. You would essentially click on the Create Portfolio link and simply add stock symbols. Here's the gaming one I was just showing you a moment ago. And you would simply click on a symbol and search that up. Once you have a stock in your portfolio and you've assembled a set of stocks, you're going to monitor the news, just like our speaker was saying a moment ago. You're going to read the business news about that stock. You could watch the TV. You could listen to the NPR and other various other sources. But a tool like Yahoo Finance is going to give you all the relevant articles that come out related to your company that you're watching, and it can help you figure out whether news is favorable or not. And there's a ton of additional information here. So build your portfolio and keep track of the companies in your portfolio over the course of the week. If you have a company that you're especially interested in, and this is like 2.0 level material, everything that is publicly provided to the Securities and Exchange Commission about a company is available on this site. You can do a Google search for EDGAR, EDGAR, and you get to the SEC EDGAR company filings page. So here, I was talking about Zoom earlier. If you search for Zoom, you can find a lot of different Zoom companies, but what I'm interested in is Zoom video. Let me just search this page for video. And it's not jumping out to me, but I had it just a moment ago. And I'm not going to belabor this point, but I will tell you that you can find your annual filings for Zoom on this page, as well as quarterly filings. And sometimes there's some gems of information that the public is not aware of that might give you insight into what that company stock is going to do and how it's going to perform. So the last thing I'll say about this is at the end of the week, we would encourage you to create a Robinhood account or an E-Trade account. I too have a Fidelity account for my 501k. I don't have an E-Trade account. I used to a long time ago. I find Robinhood easy enough to use, and I do agree that sometimes there can be a delay, and that can be very frustrating. I've found great utility in putting limits. That's when you say, I want to buy Roblox, but I want to buy it at $65, $69.50. Don't sell it to me at 70 or 71 or 72. And somehow they magically find a way to give it to you at the price that is like close enough. So create a Robinhood account, take $20 that you don't need, and put it in one of your promising stocks. Now, again, this could be in your industry sector, or it could be something outside of your industry sector that you have a strong inclination about. I'm happy to share this link. Apparently there's a referral, but I'm not too precious about this, but if you want to use this link, I'm going to drop it in the chat window, and it will give you free stock. It will give me free stock. And we're going to have a spot in the submission tool that allows you to share not only your portfolio. So once you have your portfolio, you can export what your portfolio is. Super easy to do. I'm going to show it to you right here. I have 3 portfolios that I'm looking at right now. And so here's my personal portfolio. This is actually what I own personally, including some cryptocurrency. And so you would just simply export, and that would be a simple Excel sheet. You could stick it in a Google Drive and give us the link, and that would be your submission tool. And then we'd pair you with mentors to talk about why you picked this portfolio and what you learned about this portfolio over the course of the week. So your submission to us is your portfolio, along with a reflection about what you learned from monitoring this portfolio over the course of a week. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and see what questions you have in this final few minutes. So we have 5 additional minutes, and what we can do, and we figured we would play this by ear, is to put you in a breakout room with a mentor who can think with you about the stocks that might be in your industry that would be interesting to monitor. So if anyone would like to do that, then just drop your name and the industry that you're thinking about in the chat window, and we'll just send you for a quick 3 minutes consult with one of us, one of our team members, one of our mentors, to think about what companies might be in your portfolio.
Hey, Mary, can I chime in with a quick question? I think
Absolutely.
for everyone. Is there a benefit, and Kristin, this probably is for you. You can buy fractions of shares. Is there a benefit to buying a whole share versus just a fraction of a share? Does it really matter?
No, honestly, so many people, like when you invest, and I do this too, and all my friends, they have this, like, they do this all the time. They're like, oh, if I had put, let's use Bitcoin, right? If I had bought Bitcoin at 17,000, right, I would have 60,000 now. And I'm like, yeah, but did you have 17,000 to buy 1 Bitcoin? Did you have 34,000 to buy 2 Bitcoin? So then don't even worry about that, right? The percentage is what matters. That is 100% what you need to be looking for. So it doesn't matter if you only put $10 in, 100, 1,000, 10,000, a million. What you care about is that percentage move, upswing, up to the upside or the downside. That means up or down, by the way. That's another phrase that we love to use, to the upside or to the downside. So if something goes up, a stock goes up 100%, if you put only $100 in, well, guess what? Now you have 200. Sure. Yeah. If you put 10,000 down, you'd have 20,000. Yeah, but you didn't put down 10,000. So don't even worry about that. So in the end, there really is not much of a difference. Fractional investing is great for companies that you can afford to buy a decent amount of shares of, and I also want to be very clear here. When it comes to your portfolio, when you're just starting out, you might just end up buying 1 share of something, but the real money is made. You'll never hear Warren Buffett or Berkshire Hathaway putting all of their money on just 1 share apiece across all these different companies. That you're not going to make a ton of money that way. You're going to make a lot more money if you put down $1,000 on, 1 company and you have 50 shares or 20 shares and you gain, over 100% on your investment for each of those shares that you've purchased. And so that's when fractional investing is really great. Like Amazon's too expensive for me. I can't
Way
go.
too expensive.
Way too expensive.
$20,000?
So let's say you want exposure to Amazon and you don't have the $2,000 to shell out on just 1 share.
Right.
You can put down $500 on Amazon and you will still benefit from the swings. Also consider, and when it comes to certain industries, investing in an ETF, for example, is your best bet. I will use a personal example. This is not necessarily stock advice, but I, for example, saw tech was doing so well, and I knew that tech was going to do really, really well, but I didn't have the money to put down on Amazon and Apple and Facebook and all of that stuff. So I went and I did Invesco QQQ, and I put money down on that. And now that's an ETF that has, it's got exposure to Amazon, it's got exposure to Apple, it has exposure to a lot of the big tech names, and that's still in my portfolio, one of my top performers.
Can you break down the ETF acronym stands for?
Exchange Traded Fund. So an ETF is a basket of stocks, and it essentially has different weights inside the sector. And for every single ETF, you'll have to go and go to that ETF and actually check what's in the ETF. They're not all the same. There's the WFH is like a call letter. It's for the ETF for work from home. And that's a lot of the work from home stocks, right? So you've got Zoom in there, for example. So you can do ETFs by what we call thematic ETFs. Work from home would be a thematic ETF. You can do sector ETF. JETS is an ETF for airlines. So you don't have to go and buy every individual stock. You can just put money down on the whole ETF and then when that whole industry or when that whole sector or when that whole whatever, does really well, then your whole ETF performs really well. The difference is, because I know some people are asking, well, why would you invest in an individual stock when you could just invest in an ETF? Great question. If you're a regular retail investor, now a retail investor is just you and me, regular people with just smaller amounts of money. ETFs actually are, I would argue, one of the better ways to go, because you can put way more money in ETF, get way more exposure to a lot of companies that are doing well. The problem is that if Amazon goes up 100%, an ETF with high exposure to Amazon doesn't necessarily go up 100%. It will only go up a fraction of that. The flip side, however, is when tech right now is getting slammed. Tech, they say, a lot of the analysts are telling me, is not going to lead the market in 2021 the way it did in 2020. So when some of these big names, and they say these big names are going to be held what we call under pressure, that means that they're going to face a lot of trouble like going up ahead. They're going to have a lot of like headwinds and hurdles that they'll be facing. When those names are in the red, your ETF doesn't sink as much as the whole stock does. So if Amazon goes down 100%, your ETF also doesn't go down 100% and only goes down fractionally. So something to consider to add to your portfolios when you guys are doing your challenge. And honestly, Google is your friend. You can feel free, like ETF with most exposure to tech, or ETF with most exposure to gaming or sneakers or whatever you want it to be. There's an ETF out there for you.
That's excellent. All right. Well, we are thrilled to have had your wisdom, Kristin. Thank you so much, Matt, for finding Kristin and bringing her to us. She's been amazing. I speak on behalf of all of us when I say thank you for the insights. So students, when you think about your portfolios, this is a really important way for you to think about the companies that you want to invest yourself in, right? If you're going to join a company and you're looking for an employer, you're looking for some longevity, you're looking for some signs that they're making the right bets, and you're looking at what they might encounter in light of adjacent, companies that might be doing well or not doing well. And that's just going to make you smarter and savvier about how you present yourself, and also how you frame the value that you bring to the organization. So definitely this is like, you're getting a 2-for-1 here, right? You're learning how to personally invest your own funds and thinking about your own personal investments, but also this is a powerful way for you to think about your career and how you frame what you bring to some of the companies that are hiring or in your hiring crosshairs. So we're excited to see your portfolio. If you have questions, just reply to the email that Tara will send, and we can set up some time with you and provide some pointers. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you Friday. We have a whole bunch of mentors coming to provide advice and guidance, and we look forward to seeing you then. And Tara, you have a link that you've dropped into the chat window. We live and die on your survey feedback. Seriously. We know it's 4 minutes afterwards, but we would like you to click on this link and give us some very brief feedback on how useful this event, I don't want to lead. If it was not at all useful, I want you to tell us. Not at all useful, Humera. Need you to adjust it in these ways. So give us some frank feedback about how this session went for you. And we look forward to seeing you on Friday. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Kristin.
Of course. Thanks, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.